What's good? What's good? This video will basically be about the Roman gods and um, I guess they connection to you know the Roman way of life, but mainly this um, well I wouldn't say mainly, but also this video will also be about how the Romans viewed the Christians and how basically the Christians differ uh, from the early Christians differ from the modern Christians, the Christians of today. So I'm gonna start off in this book right here called "The Christians as the Romans Saw Them" by Robert L. Wilkin, and on uh, page 117 it say, in the next fragment quoted by Origen, Celsus says that Christians ought to accept public office in our country for the sake of the preservation of the laws of piety. So what keep that word piety in mind. I'm gonna go back in some later pages or earlier pages to show you what what he mean by piety. It say originally the word piety was used to designate the honor and respect one showed to members of one's family, children to parents, children and parents to grandparents, and everyone to one's ancestors. But the term came to be used in a wider sense, designating loyalty and obedience to the customs and traditions of Rome. So piety began to be used, like you said, in a wider sense. Um, uh, Designating the loyalty and obedience to the customs and traditions of Rome. On page 58, it say, in the cities of the ancient world. Now, this is talking about how religion and politics and social life is all intertwined. It say, in the cities of the ancient world, religion was not in the cities of the ancient world, religion was intertwined with social and political life. One did not speak of having, or one did not speak of believing in the gods, but of having gods, just as a city might have laws or customs. Piety towards the gods was thought to ensure the well-being of the city, to promote a spirit of kinship and mutual responsibility, indeed, to bind together the citizens. So piety basically, like I mean, basically like piety towards the God was ensure the well-being of the city, which in the well-being of the city it includes the social life of the city, the religious aspect, and in political matters, and like I said, in this case commerce too, economics, and like all those things were intertwined. So I just wanted to try to establish that first, piety. So try to give you guys an understanding of piety. So I'm gonna start back on page. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna start back on page 117. It say, in the next fragment quoted by Origen, Celsus says that the Christians ought to accept public office in our country for the sake of the preservation of the laws of piety. The point of Celsus' comments is not that Christians are pacifists, but that they refuse to participate in any way in the public and civil life of the cities of the Roman Empire. As another critic put it, Christians do not understand their civic duty. So he's saying like, these Christians, by them not observing, by them not participating in our way of life, the Roman way of life, they don't understand their civic duty. They basically don't understand their purpose. But I'm going to continue to read. It say, on the face of it, Celsus' comments about Christian refusal to assume civic responsibilities appear similar to the charge reported in Tacitus that the Christians were punished by Nero because of their hatred of the human race. That's what they believe, by them not, basically participating in the Roman way, the serving they gods, which, like I said, religion and politics all play a part. Serving they gods, which include economics, which include politics, which include social the social structure of the place. By the Christians not indulging in that. Celsus agreed with Tacitus that Nero punished them for their so-called hatred towards the human race. And then it goes on to say, I'm gonna start right here. Say, by Nero, because of their hatred of the human race, their aloofness and disdain for the ways of others. Celsus cites the words of Jesus, quote, "It is impossible for the same man to serve several masters." That's Matthew, unquote. That's Matthew 6:24. And he calls it, talking about Celsus calls the words of the Messiah in Matthew 6:24. He calls those words in Matthew sedition words or revolutionary words. But why did he view those words of Messiah in Matthew 6:24 as words of revolution? Or why did he view them as revolutionary words? Why? Because the Romans, they was about that money. Like I said, religion and politics and economics, all that was intertwined, and they had many gods, gods who were gods of money, wealth, prosperity, abundance, and commerce. And I'm gonna read Matthew 6:24, because in that scripture it's talking about money. Matthew 6:24 say, "No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon," or you cannot serve God and money. In the Roman, I'm gonna try to show you in scriptures the mindset of the Romans. We're gonna go to like I said, it's a reason why Celsus felt the words of the Messiah in Matthew 6:24 as revolutionary words. Let me go to Acts 16, starting at verse 16, just to try to show you the mindset of the Roman people. It say, "And it came to pass, as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with a spirit of deviation met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying." So this lady who was following Paul and them, who was possessed by a spirit, she brought her masters much gain through soothsaying. So let me continue, verse 17. "The same followed Paul and us, and cried, saying," talking about this woman, and cried saying, "These men are the servants of the Most High God, which show us unto the way of salvation." So she recognized who Paul and them observed. Verse 18, "And this did she many days, but Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the spirit, I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her. And he came out the same hour. And when her masters saw that the hope of their gains was gone, they caught Paul and Silas." Mind you, they made money through her soothsaying, and she was able to soothe. She was able to do her soothsaying by the spirit that she was possessed by. So when Paul cast that spirit out of her, her masters saw that the hope of their gains was gone. The way they made their money was gone, and they caught Paul and Silas. And it say, and they caught Paul and Silas and drew them unto the marketplace unto the rulers, and brought them to the magistrates, saying, now listen to this, and brought them to the magistrates, saying, These men, being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city, and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. And if you keep reading, they beat Paul and Silas and they threw them in jail for that. Why? Because they gods was based off of making money. Many of their gods was based off of making money. So if somebody come in interfering with that, it's a problem. It's a problem, and they beat Paul and Silas. And I'm gonna read some. I could pull up some websites that talk about financial gods. In the ancient world, it say many English words associated with wealth are derived from the Latin words describing Roman gods and goddesses of wealth. According to United Nations, Roma Victrix, 3 Roman wealth gods named Eventus Bonus, Abuntia, and fortuna share notable similarities to the words bonus, abundance, and fortune, the last of which is the name of the financial publication named Fortune. The Romans were not the only culture to have gods and goddesses of wealth. Many cultures past and present have wealth deities, a multiple of which have origins that predate monotheism. The wealth deities are often depicted in mythology but are also ancient religious icons. These deities are originally believed to either represent the idea of wealth, prosperity, or thought to direct aid practitioners of the belief in gaining prosperity through worship or ritual. Now that's one. Now I'm read some of the one. This is one of the guys, Mercury. They like the Romans, like he said, the Romans got a guy named Bonus, Abuntia, and Fortune. But one of the guys too is Mercury is a god of trade and profit, merchants and travelers, but originally of the trade in corn. It say Mercury is god of trade and profit, merchants and travelers, but originally of the trade in corn. In later times, he was equated with the Greek Hermes. He had a temple in Rome near the Circus Maximus of the Aventine Hill, which dates back to 495 BCE. This temple was connected to some kind of trade fair. His main festival, the Mercurialia, was celebrated on May 15th, and on this day the merchants sprinkled their heads and their merchandise with water from his well near the Porta Capena. So when the Messiah and them was telling these telling people to flee from these gods and not deal with these gods, they was actually talking about people's lives, because people related what they did to their God. Just like we as so-called followers of the Bible, we try to govern ourselves based off of this book, based off the Bible, based off the ways of the Most High. They basically did the same things to their gods. So that's why they would sprinkle that water over their head and on their merchandise and stuff like that. And merchants, those who sell goods, they make money by commerce, by consumers, people buying and selling what they have. So if you got people, if you got somebody talking about, like Messiah said, you can't serve God and mammon, but they God was a god of mammon. The Roman gods and the majority of the these other kingdoms, these wicked kingdoms gods, were gods of mammon. So when Messiah told them, you can't serve God and mammon, that's revolutionary to Celsus. Celsus said that was words of revolution or sedition, basically meaning revolution. But Paul, like we said in 1 Timothy, Paul taught don't, the love of money is the root of all evil. And he told those who follow God to flee those things. To flee those things and pursue righteousness and faith and godliness and brotherly kindness and all good stuff. But the Romans, like I said, they God was a god of mammon. So if you telling them that you can't serve God and mammon, you like, hold on. But my God bring me mammon. See, and I know some Sunday Christians, Hebrews like say, well, God said, Messiah said that he came to give us life and life more abundantly, but that's not what you think it means. Because when you look at the life of the apostles, they wasn't pursuing the cares of this world. They wasn't pursuing the pride of life, and the pride of life would be indulging in the Roman culture. Today it will be indulging in. I'm sorry. Today it will be indulging in the American culture. Today we'll be indulging in American culture.
Hello. Please leave a message.
I'm sorry, y'all. Okay. Yeah, like that. It will be indulging in American culture. Paul said flee all that. I'm gonna go back to the book, the Christians as a Roman Solomon, on page 119. It say The Christian movement was revolutionary not because it had the men and resources to mount a war against the laws of the Roman Empire, but because it created a social group that promoted its own laws and its own patterns of behavior. Like Paul said, be not conformed to this world, but be not conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So they left the pattern of this world, and they pursued another pattern, a pattern that was laid down by the Messiah. I'm gonna read that over and say the Christian movement was revolutionary not because it had the men and resources to mount a war against the laws of the Roman Empire, but because it created a social group that promoted its own laws and its own patterns of behavior. The life and teachings of Jesus led to the formation of a new community of people called the church. So he said the life and teaching of Jesus. Well, one thing Jesus, just to show you, where's that? The life, or what the Messiah said, what the Messiah said he came to do. Since he said the life and teachings of Jesus led to a formation of a new community of people called the church, and then he go on to say Christianity had begun to look like a separate people or nation. So he said the life of Christ and his teachings led to this people that started to look like a new people or a new nation. In Luke 4:18, it say the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed. That's what the Messiah was doing. That's what he came to do, and through that's what caused him to create this new people, this new nation. But I'm gonna continue to read this. It say Celsus was convinced that if an association of this sort, talking about the association which was led by the life and teachings of Christ that started to create a new people or a new nation, that association, that's what Celsus talk about when he say association. Celsus was convinced that if an association of this sort attracted too many adherents, it could disrupt the cohesion and stability of society. The Christian movement was beginning to create a counterculture. That's completely different from what we see today. In modern Christian, you don't see no counterculture. People indulge in American culture, and they call America the second Rome. So you can say people indulge in the Roman culture, but in the early Christians, they was trying to flee the Roman culture. But yet Christians today who claim they love the Messiah, and Hebrews today claim they love the Most High, still indulge in the Roman culture, the American culture. Let me read that again and say the Christian movement was beginning to create a counterculture that shifted people's loyalties and drained their energies away from the larger society. So these people who started to take heed to hear about the teachings of the Messiah and heard that it was good and began to believe in the Messiah, it started draining their energy away from the larger society, which was Rome, and pursue to be Christ-like, pursue to build up the kingdom of the Most High, this separate nation, this separate people. So when the Christians, heard things like in 1 John 2:15, where it say, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him." They took that literal. They took that literal. And they pursued to change their life. And one thing too is the movement, as he said. The movement of the Christian movement began to create a counterculture. That movement was a movement of to help the poor, free the oppressed, love your neighbor as yourself, be good stewards of the earth. That all those we can agree are good things. Yet that was disruptive to the culture of Rome. It was disruptive to the culture of Rome, because they wasn't about love, thy neighbor as thyself. The love I'm bringing up, the love that they was talking about, the love that they got. See, the love that the Messiah brought was the love my God, the Most High, is trying to show mankind to follow. And we all can say that love is good to help the poor, to free the oppressed, to love thy neighbor as thyself, to be good stewards of the earth. Or that's a good love. and that came from the God of the Bible. But the God of the Romans, they love was right here say a love deity in is a deity in mythology associated with sexual sexual love, lust, or sexuality. Love deities are common in mythology and may be found in many polytheistic religions. So let me go down to the Roman gods. This right here is Venus. See, this the love that they was talking about, and this why the love of the Messiah was something different to them, because this the love that they was on right here. This the love the Romans was on, which is the love that a majority of Americans is on too. It's a Venus is the Roman goddess whose functions encompass love, beauty, sex, fertility, and prosperity. That was they love. That's as far as love or love for beauty and prosperity. You hear those things in churches and stuff. But this was the love the Romans or modern day churches. This is the love the Romans knew. They didn't know the love that came from the Messiah. That's why it was disruptive to their nation. It was this, and you, like I said, a kingdom is wicked when love can destroy it. Let me go back to it. This is another Cupid. We all heard of Cupid, where he shoots you with that arrow and you caught up. It's a Cupid is the god of desire. The god of desire, erotic love, attraction, and affection. This the love that the Romans knew, which was the love the Greeks knew. This the love that they knew. They got another god. Because these they gods. I don't know. I'll say this. It's I guess Swadella. In Roman mythology, Swadella was a goddess of persuasion, particularly in romance, seduction, and love. These they gods. So when the Messiah was when the Messiah was talking about love thy neighbor as thyself, and take care of the poor and take care of the free the oppressed. That love was something different. That didn't match the culture of Rome, and it led one of they governmental officials to say, he said, these godless Christians he called them godless. He said these godless Christians nourish not only their own but even our poor. He called them godless. Why? But they wasn't godless. They just didn't serve the gods of Rome. But they served the Most High and was pursuing to serve the Most High, which is real love. But they God's love was on some other stuff. But I'm gonna keep let me keep reading this right here. It say this is on page 121. It say by transgressing the structure or law of Judaism, the tradition from which it sprang, talking about Christianity exposed Hellenism to acute peril. Now let me say this: they didn't transgress the laws of Judaism or the laws of the Most High or the laws of Moses. The Christians, they didn't transgress the laws of the Most High. It's just that when the Hebrews was before Messiah came, the Hebrews, they wasn't truly keeping the laws of the Most High. They wasn't, and a lot of them was keeping the Sabbath. A lot of them was keeping not eating pork, and stuff like that. And a lot of them was not physically bowing down to. I mean, I'm not gonna say all of them was not, but a lot of them was not physically bowing down to these Roman gods, but they walked in the ways of these Roman gods. They walked in the ways of these Roman gods, and they wasn't pursuing love for their neighbor, because the law talk about all that. The two greatest commandments that the Messiah mentioned come from the law in the Old Testament, and in Luke 16 it showed that the people, and especially the Pharisees, who was people who was teaching the people, they wasn't keeping the laws of of the Most High, and that's why the Messiah gave him that parable of Lazarus and the rich man. Like, yo, in this world, the rich man received his good things, and in this world, Lazarus received his evil things. So in the next life, Lazarus going to receive his good things, and the rich man going to receive his evil things. And when he was giving that parable, say the rich man, Lazarus was on the side of Abraham, and the rich man was on the other side, basically being burnt. He asked Abraham to send Lazarus over to him. Send Lazarus over to him, to give him some water. But Abraham was like, nah, I can't. It's a gulf between us. I mean, that's when he was like, well, look. That's when the rich man was like, well, look, Father Abraham, please just send Lazarus to my brothers, because basically they walking the same path I'm walking. It's going to lead to the place that I am now. So send Lazarus to my brother to testify of this, to preach to them. And Abraham was like, look, they got Moses and the prophets. They got the law of Moses and the prophets. That's when the rich man was like, no, but surely if you send Lazarus, somebody from the dead. But Abraham was like, no, if they not going to listen to Moses and the prophets, then they will not believe if one came from the dead telling them. Because the people wasn't keeping they wasn't keeping the laws of the Most High. They wasn't loving their neighbor as they self. Man, so when they say that Christians, broke the laws or transgressed the laws of the Most High, they didn't. But let me keep reading. They say Christianity exposed Hellenism to acute peril. For the revolt against Judaism injected a poison into the society that would eventually destroy the traditions of Hellenism. Hellenism is still around today. America is a Hellenistic empire. And the early Christians were trying to flee from that, while Sunday Christians to this day and the Hebrews, y'all still indulging in that junk. I mean, even to a certain extent, I'm still indulging into it, and that's why I'm trying to free myself from all this. It say that's it, but it's one more I want to go to. This right here is about Tacitus. Tacitus this on page 66. It say, when Tacitus wrote that Christianity was the enemy of mankind, he did not simply mean he did not like Christians and found them a nuisance, though this was surely true, but that they were an affront to his social and religious world. Of course, they was, and like I said, look, like we read, the social and religious world and political life, all that was, and with their gods, all that was intertwined. Piety towards the gods made sure, he said piety towards the gods made sure basically the cities of Rome well-being flourished. I mean, and these gods were gods of money, prosperity, and stuff like that. All that stuff. Like I said, they didn't understand the love of the Messiah. They didn't understand the love of the Messiah, because the love that they guys taught them was some sexual erotic stuff, some lustful stuff. That's the love that they knew. So they didn't understand the love of Messiah. So when they saw Messiah going around helping the poor and freeing the oppressed, that was new. Like what he doing? He messing things up. Even be Paul and Silas, like we read in Acts 16, where they threw that lady, or when Paul cast that spirit out of that lady, her master saw that their money was gone. The hope of their money was gone. So they took Paul and Silas up to the magistrates, like, yo, you got to deal with them. They doing things that we as Romans not supposed to observe. That we don't do. You need to deal with them. And then he said they teach things. Right there, Paul ain't, right in that scripture, Paul ain't teach nothing. All he did was cast that spirit out of that damsel or that woman. That's all he did. He ain't teach nothing. That's what, and that gives me an impression that they probably heard some of Paul's teachings and stuff like that. Before this encounter, they probably heard some of Paul's and Silas in the teachings, what caused them to say, yo, they teach things that we as Romans is not supposed to observe. But like we said, Paul and them was teaching, not to serve, idols and stuff like that. And like I said, they gods were intertwined with economics. The Roman gods was intertwined with economics and politics. So when he was telling the Romans not to, when he was telling people not to bow down to idols or false gods, he was telling them, yo, don't bow down to the economic system of Rome, the political life of Rome, the social culture of Rome. Don't bow down to that. Flee from that. He was also touching on money. Look, the love of money is the root of all evil. Flee from that. That's why Celsus received or perceived the words of the Messiah in Matthew 6:24 as revolutionary words, because they had gods of mammon. How you telling me? It's like, I guess Celsus felt though, yo, how you telling me that you cannot serve God and mammon when my God is a God of mammon? See, that's a problem to him. That was a problem to him. That was a problem to him. But I got one more thing to read, just to show the how deep the separation was between the true followers of the Messiah back then and the Roman Empire. It's a Christianity. This is in a book called Eastern Christianity and Politics in the 21st Century. It's a you can download this book. It's a Christianity, as much as, if not more than, other religions, has had from the beginning a social and political concern. The early Christians believed quite literally that Christ would soon return to establish a 1,000-year kingdom on earth, and that it was their task to prepare for his second coming by rebuilding society on new foundations. In other words, the early church was not just a voluntary association for religious purposes. It was rather the new society, even the new humanity, the true city of God, in a process of construction. And each local community was fully aware of its membership in an inclusive and universal whole. The church was conceived as an independent and self-supporting social order, as a new dimension, as Origen put it. Early Christians felt themselves, in the last resort, quite outside of the existing social order, which was the existing social order was Rome. And like we say, like the social order, religions, the Roman gods, and they social order, they politics, all that was intertwined. They in the last resort quite outside. Let me start all over. It say early Christians felt themselves in the last resort quite outside of the existing social order, simply because for them the church itself was in order, an extraterrestrial colony of heaven on earth. The church, often identified as the body of Christ, was with the kingdom of God on earth. So they really was trying to build a kingdom of the Most High. They wasn't like, oh, we going to the corner church and we going to the camp, and stuff like that. And they was really trying to build a kingdom of the Most High to prepare for the Messiah's second coming. They was really trying to build it to the point where they extracted themselves from the existing social order, which is Rome. But we don't see that today, man. There's few people doing that. And like Messiah says, it's few people doing that. Very little people doing that compared to all the Christians around the world, and especially in America. I mean, and like Messiah said, many go through the gate that's wide, but few go through the gate that's narrow. Because it's hard to give up these wonders in this system, in the system of Babylon. These miracles, we call, these luxuries and stuff. It's hard to give those things up for most people and stuff, But I just wanted to share that. Matter of fact, I got one more thing I want to share. This is in a book called "The Early Christians in Their Own Words" by Eberhard Arnold, and this is a Christian brother who's saying this. His name is Tertullian. It's a it becomes evident that the entire crime with which they charge us does not consist in any wicked act. So he's saying, look, it's evident that the charges that the Romans is charging us with, is not based off of any wicked acts. It say, but in the bearing of a name. The issue is not the name of a crime, but the crime of bearing a name. Again and again, it is the name that must be punished by the sword, the gallows, the cross, or the wild beast. And when you look at Hebrew and Greek, name don't just mean the literal name of somebody. Like my name Raphael, it just don't mean Raphael. In the Hebrew and Greek, name also mean character. So when he say that again and again, it is the name that must be punished by the sword and gallows, the cross, or the wild beast. He talking about the character of Messiah, because he talking about Jesus. That name, Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. You know what I mean? It's that name, that character that must be punished, because that's the character that's disrupting the Roman culture. That's the character that can bring instability to the Roman culture, to the Roman Empire. And they didn't like that. They didn't like that. Yeah, that's all I wanted to share. I hope the video went good. I hope I, explained what I was saying, good and stuff like that. But yeah, like it's just crazy, and we gotta repent from this culture. Like you said, we need to create a counterculture like the early church did. Shalom.